Hey, folks, it's Rob Potter here from The Promise Revealed, and we have a very special guest. We're having some technical difficulties. For some reason, my website server's down right now, which is not great. And it's too bad because I was going to share the new products that I have, the nuclear receptor, and let you see that on my website. This is a Ruby, 4 leg straight, 144 pyramids by Fred Bell. And we have the Andromedan holographic projector. This design was received by the Pleiadian Semyasi, who handed those designs to Fred on Christmas Day. In the evening, I met him on Christmas morning. He showed me the drawings. This was given to him by the Andromedans as part of his scientific mission. And I want you to say hello to my friend above my head here, Mr. Frank Chile. Frank Chile is one of the most enthusiastic, positive persons I've ever met in regards to his really very engaging enthusiasm for the brothers, as he calls them, the sisters from outer space. We met each other in about 1978 or 79, and he took me through ET 101 big time. I was had a guy named Michael Legion, a good friend of ours that lived in my house, actually lived in Frank's house, but Frank was going up to see Gabriel Green, who Raymond Keller met, and I met, and who provided me with a spaceship landing and many other metaphysical and spiritual experiences. And Frank lives in New Jersey now. How are you, Frank? Welcome to the show.
I'm doing good. Thank you so very much. It's a joy to be able to share with you and your fine audience.
Yeah, he's kind of freezing a little bit there, folks, but don't you worry. His voice is coming through clear. I want to tell you guys some things about Frank because he has so much. He's like me. He can just go on with story after story of amazing metaphysical information. We're going to let him do that today. He shared some with me, and I'm going to prompt him into a couple things, but he will be sharing some stuff. So he's the person. Okay, most people don't know, but I introduced Michael Salla to Bill Tompkins. Now, Frank Chile introduced Bill Tompkins to me. Frank Chile is very well connected with the boys and girls upstairs, and he provides a tremendous amount of networking behind the scenes. Frank Chile also turned me on to my dear, dear friend, my mentor, my guide, my spiritual teacher, and one of the most exclusive and powerful contactees, Dr. Raymond Keller, who lived on Venus for 2.5 months and who was got lost in time travel, looked at the Akashic records, an amazing person. And you're going to meet just as much amazing information with Frank Chile. So Frank, thank you for coming on the show.
It's a joy. It's a pleasure and a joy to be able to share, Rob.
It is. So let's see if he's going to share with us Extraterrestrials #3 book that was sent to him by Bob Woodward, is it?
Dr. Bob Wood. He's the one who worked at the Douglas think tank for 43 years and never knew there was a more secret think tank that Bill Tompkins was in. And when he met Bill Tompkins, Bill shared information with him of people that he worked with that Bob knew, but he never knew that there was a more secret aspect to the secret think tank in Douglas. And a lot of things were revealed to Dr. Bob Wood because of Bill Tompkins and his extraordinary career.
And how did you get a hold of which guys came first and how did you meet them?
Well, it's interesting. Major George Filer, who were good friends, he was an intel officer in the Air Force. He would brief generals and colonels on a daily basis. And he had quite a few experiences in the Air Force. And he was doing a lecture out in Los Angeles about structures on Mars. And at the end of the lecture, some guys from the Jet Propulsion Lab came up and they complimented Major Filer for sharing information that they couldn't. They said, everything you're sharing and showing is true. He has individuals who could share with him photos that are unredacted that show trees and foliage and plants on Mars, that show bodies of water, forests, and also structures. So at the end of his lecture, these two guys from the Jet Propulsion Lab came up and they complimented him. And they said, everything you're showing is true and real. We could validate that, but we just can't talk about it. And then after those fellows came up, Dr. Bob Wood, who Bill had, Major Fowler had known for some time, came up with an individual, and he said, "I'd like to introduce you this fellow by the name of William Tompkins. He claims to have worked with extraterrestrials while he was working at think tanks for aerospace companies." And Major Fowler met him, and they exchanged phone numbers. And Major Fowler shared the information with me about Tompkins. And I took the ball, and I contacted Bill and started chatting with him and got him to come on to Jeff Rense's program. And he logged like 54 and a half hours on Jeff Rense's program. And I would speak to him 3 or 4 times a week, sometimes 2 or 3 times a day. And there was nothing we couldn't talk about, Rob. He never lost the gift of being able to tune in to the energies of what was being discussed and to be able to see what it is you're talking about. And I wasn't trying to test him, but I mentioned a couple things to him. And as soon as I mentioned it to him, he was like alongside me, walking with me as I was starting to relay the experiences, but not in an intrusive way, as an observer. And he was able to see everything that I had experienced, and he validated what I was seeing. So he never lost that tremendous gift that he had.
Yeah, Frank has had tremendous experiences. He does a lot of work in the dream state, what Valiant Thor and us would call night classes. I actually had one the other night with Alon and Commander Rains in the last couple of days. So I've been asking for that. I go, why can't I have a night class like Frank? So Frank introduced me to him. I talked to him privately, and he came on one of my shows, but Jeff Rentz was better, and he's a little more well-known, of course. And I'm glad 54 hours with Frank Chile on there. So I know William Tompkins is out. That information is kind of out there in the secret space program. I'd like to go back into the annals of history with what you shared with me. There's a gentleman I'm going to be interviewing, I think on December 6th, folks. It'll probably be out by the 8th or something. He's from Japan. Why don't you give us a history of this new guy that you've interviewed?
Sure.
Who I'm arranging.
Well, I happened to be introduced to him by Paula Harris. Paula said there's this UFO researcher by the name of Michel Zerger. He's originally from France, and he moved to Tokyo about 22 years ago, got married, and he's been doing his work there. And his work primarily deals with the early contactees, George Adamski and George Hunt Williamson. And he said it was his mission to unlock a lot of that early pioneer information where we were interacting directly with visitors that look just like us, and get away from the information about the grays and the other species that don't have our best interests in mind. And he happened to be at a cafe one day, and he was talking to a friend of his about visitors that are down here to look exactly like us. So the fella said, "Michelle, this can't be true. There can't be people who look just like us that are here." And as he was saying that, a fellow walked into the cafe, didn't say a word. Michelle said he looked like Orthon, not Orthon. He looked like the contact that George Adamski had at Alice Wells. It wasn't Orthon. It was, oh my gosh. Name's right on the tip of my tongue. But he had long blonde hair. He had a one-piece suit on, and he had left some footprints at
what do you mean one-piece suit?
One-piece spacesuit. Then incorporated his boots with the suit, with his spacesuit.
This is in a restaurant?
No, the George Adamski had met this being,
okay, I know I'm talking about Zerger when the guy came up at the
well, the guy who came into the cafe looked exactly like the being that George Adamski had seen in the desert in 1952.
Yeah.
And he said his skin was perfect. There was no blemishes at all. He had short blonde hair, the most incredible blue eyes. And he said he looked at Michelle. When he walked up to the counter, the waitress behind the counter set down a latte for him. The fellow didn't even ask for anything. And he didn't say one word. He just stood between Michelle and this other fella. And he was looking at Michelle. And Michelle said, if you are not from this planet.
Telepathically, right?
Telepathically, he sends this message to him. He said this young fella had, he looked to be about 25, 26 years of age, had a book in his hand. And he said, I want you to write something down to indicate to me that you've received this message from me and you're not from here. So He said the fellow lifted up the book, put it on the counter, took out a pen, and wrote in French, "We are here." And
This is right between him and the other guy sitting at a counter, right?
that's right, at a counter in a cafe, in a coffee shop in Tokyo.
The other question is that he was wearing earth clothes, right?
Earth clothes, yes. He said he looked exactly like the description Adamski had made of his contact in the desert. And he said, but his hair was short. He was dressed impeccably. And he said, after he wrote down, "We are here," he said he looked deeply into Michelle's eyes. And he said it was like looking into cosmos. He said it was just such an extraordinary experience. So he named his next book. He's written 7 books about Adamski, and his newest one about George Hunt Williamson is going to be published probably in the end of this month. And he said that he named his next book that he was working on, "We Are Here." So about a month later, he's in another cafe and he's by himself, and he sees this woman who's sitting at a couch in the cafe. And he got the same impression that he got from that young fella who had walked into the cafe. And he said, sent a mental thought to her and said, "If you are not from this planet, reach into your purse and take out a piece of paper and a pen and write something down." So she did. She wrote something down, and then she looked at him. She got up, she put her purse around her shoulder and walked out. And Michelle walked out of the cafe, maybe about 4 or 5 steps behind her, and she disappeared.
All right. Well,
So
this is common, folks. I've had this too. Frank's probably had it too. I keep asking him about it, but this is how they were meeting me when I saw Dawn. I was at Gabe's house, and I said, "What did they wear?" He said 1950s clothes, and they loved the 50s. And sure enough, I went down, and Michael Legion was in the store. I've said this story many times. And there came Dawn looking at it, and I was like, "Oh my God, that's them." And they don't admit it. I met Valley of Thor that way. I met Vice Commander, his girlfriend or wife, Jill. And Unaya came in to Dr. Frank Strange's meeting. So Jill and Unaya, I met at the inner circle meetings. He put their hand on, Unaya put his hand on my head for the initiation. And Jill just was smiling. And so this is very common, folks. And I want you all to mindful of Dr. Keller's favorite Bible verse: "Beware lest ye entertain angels unaware." This is very important right now because they are walking, living, talking, living amongst us. They're going to come forward in the future. You'll know them as your neighbor when it's revealed that they're here. So you're not in fear. I've known that guy for a long time. He's a good fellow. This is amazing. And a lot of this will move forward. Is that correct, Frank, don't you think?
it is. That's what I've been hearing from the contactees that I've been talking to. But Michelle took this story one step further. He said that he's going to be writing an article in New Dawn magazine. It's out of New Zealand, and it's a metaphysical New Age magazine. And he said there was something that very special happened here. He said there's a group of visitors that contacted 500 Earth beings, 10 from each of 50 different countries. And they were contacted prior to last September and told that they were chosen to be on a mission for 6 months that would take them off planet Earth. And none of these people were academics. Every one of them were very creative people, like they were writers, they were singers, they were artists, and they were told they could not bring anything electrical with them, and that they would be gone for a period of 6 months from September of last year to March of this year. Okay, the end of March of this year. And he said that they all agreed to participate in the program, and they were taken on board this mothership via shuttle in small groups. And the mothership that they were taken to is 13.5 kilometers long and 1.5 kilometers wide. It's almost the same type of design and shape that Bill Tompkins had done for Solar Warden and for the Nordic Navy, that our Navy interacts with the Nordic Navy. And there's 4,000 beings on board this craft. And the people were told, the Earth visitors were told, they're going to be taken to this planet in the solar system that's in the constellation Orion. It's 400 light years from here. And he said they have the ability of being able to transport themselves via this large mothership in a matter of seconds, if not minutes. But since the people on the trip, this was the first time they were on board a craft, they took it slow, and they took almost a week to get to this solar system in Orion, in the constellation Orion. And he said that they arrived, and the planet that they were taken to is called the Blue Planet, and there's a photograph of it in this article. It's absolutely amazing. It was taken by one of the visitors, and it also shows the mother, which is an incredible photograph of this mothership. It's one of the most magnificent ones I've ever seen, Rob. And one person was allowed to bring an iPad because they love Earth music. And the music that was on this iPad was Mozart, Beethoven, Tchaikovsky, Prince, and Beatles. They love Earth music. So they allowed him to bring this iPad that just had the music on it. And they were brought down to the surface of the planet. It looks very similar to Earth, except it's got 2 continents. There's about 1 billion people that live on it. The people are like Earth people. There's some that are white, there's some that are brown, some that are yellow, some that are red skinned, and they all live in perfect peace and without any disease. When they landed, there was a woman there from the Earth. She was an astrophysicist. She appeared to be about 35 years of age. And she said she had been there for 35 years. So she was actually 70 years of age, but she didn't look her age at all. And they were told that they were going to be future ambassadors to the solar system in Orion and interact with Earth beings, and being given a chance to come here and to interact in different families with this group. Now, they didn't allow the name of the planet to be given. They just said, just call it the Blue Planet. And they provided them with their own living quarters. They were given whatever foods they wanted to eat, food and vegetables and juices and things like that. And they were told that they don't age as we do. They live maybe 2,400 years of age, and they look to be in their early 20s to maybe early 30s at the most. And if they want to live beyond that 2,400 years of age, they can. They have the capability of doing that. And some of the people that were brought from the Earth to this planet, go ahead, Rob.
I want to ask, are they 4th dimensional, 5th dimensional, 3rd dimensional?
Third dimensional.
Third
dimensional.
Or
Yep.
4th, probably.
Well, the visitors, well, the visitors that were brought there, the guests from Earth, said they were meeting people that had flesh and blood bodies like we do. You were able to shake hands with them. They were able to hug them. They said that the people were ultra friendly, very caring, and very loving. They all worked. They did things that would improve the benefit of all of the inhabitants of this planet. And some of the visitors said, is it possible to visit other parts of the Orion constellation? So the visitors allowed them to be taken. 175 of them were taken to see other star systems within the Orion constellation, other stars, and see all kinds of incredible things. And they were told that when they come back, they wanted them to share this information, use it in like poetry and in music, maybe in creative arts in some way. They said that they had been visiting Earth for over 1,000 years. They said, but there was another group of Nordic type beings that have been here for more than 2,000 years. And they said they've infiltrated every aspect of Earth and the organizations here. They said there's no games that they're not aware of that are being played down here. And they said they have the ability of seeing every action and every thought that's being planned that they want to do to Earth beings. So, but they said things are going to work out. Things are going to manifest in a manner that's going to be beneficial for all. And these people are being given an advanced view of how things could be on Earth the way they are on this planet. The temperature was between 72 to 74 degrees. They didn't have any hurricanes, no earthquakes, no adverse weather whatsoever. It was always beautiful, beautiful skies, and just very loving individuals and beings. Now, some of the Earth visitors who came to this planet for this 6-month period started to miss Earth, and they asked if they could be brought back. And believe it or not, quite a few people wanted to come back. And the
You think
it's strange, isn't it? They have an opportunity to be in a harmonious world with beautiful beings that welcome them, and yet they miss the chaos of Earth, I guess.
yeah,
So, but they have no television there. There's no television on this planet. There's beautiful art. There's all kinds of interactive ways to share thoughts and ideas, and of course, they communicate telepathically, and they could communicate verbally as well. So Michelle published a 6-page article with photographs, and he said there's a lot more detail he's been given the green light to reveal. And unfortunately, he recently had a hernia operation and he's recovering from that. But we're hoping to have him come back and share more information with these individuals and the wonderful trip that they had. And they got back at the end of March of this year, Rob. So it's all very, very, very relevant and very timely.
absolutely. I think Michael's going to be on the show, like I said, I think at the 5th or 6th, but you just imagine someone not want to go. Frank probably and I would have said, can we stay a little bit? Can we stay a little longer? Right?
Yeah, stay longer. Yeah,
So,
yeah. Well, we know what it's like there. So for us, it's not unusual, but for these 500 Earth beings that were taken there, probably really upset their whole paradigm. They were looking at things entirely different now because they never thought anything like this could exist off Earth.
It's a pretty big expansion from being just like a creative person that's selected, but they must have selected more to get that many people that wanted to actually go and have that number. But I think that those people were chosen and for a reason and all of that. One of the other things, I want to run this by you a little bit, but I think, with the I'm wearing my pyramid, by the way, folks. So it's kind of a pyramid. 19 red bell back in the old day. Frank used to see me wear this out in public all the time. I keep them in
all the time. Yeah.
The house and stuff. But one of the things I'm thinking here is that there's a guy who went in the mountain here behind me, Mount Shasta. There's a Venusian colony that's cloaked in the 5th dimension, according to Lady Orda, George Adamski's first contact, Raymond Keller's contact, the Queen of Venus now. And he didn't really have any experience or knowledge or anything about this. So they chose people that I think will make it through the experience without getting fearful or head exploding, but they're actually contacting people so they don't have someone who's been in the field for a long time who is looking for the experience. It's kind of sad that some people don't get it, but they're contacting people that will have more validity because some of these people have never had a contact. Some of them may not want to come out publicly right away or if ever. And I think reality that these people weren't looking for the experience. They weren't like me. You've had lots of different experiences. And, I still haven't had a spaceship ride. I remember I did go to the mothership, but they blocked my memory from it for whatever reason. Do you think that this is part of the plan of the gradual revelation for mankind to see these people that aren't like me, that guy's been talking about for years, he's full of it or whatever. Oh, he's just making that up. This is for the average person, right?
Yes. And the people that were chosen, Rob, were between the ages of 35 to 70, but none of them were academians. They were all people that were basically very creative, into music, into art, into writing, into poetry, things like that, because they think they would be able to bring back more of the true concept of what the experience was like.
Yeah, so this is an amazing experience. I'm looking forward to my interview with Michael Zerger. And folks, I'm going to be doing a couple series of longer interviews with Frank. He's got so much information. Let's go back to Michael Zerger's information. He bought the George Adamski estate. George Adamski, folks, wrote the book Flying Saucers Have Landed. This is about his contact with the woman that I am in communication with through Dr. Raymond Keller, who leaves me voice recorded messages and gives messages to the people of Earth and answers a lot of questions along with Alon, the security chief of the Venusians. The ones that look like us that have been here for guarding our planet and helping us are the Venusians. Frank is well aware of them, and I think we spoke on another show about Zret, another guy that Frank knows about. But let's talk about the George Hunt Williamson collection, because not only does he have George Adamski's estate, I want you to share some of that information
Yeah, George Hunt Williamson, he bought his estate, and it has manuscripts and incredible rare books that were part of George Hunt Williamson's estate. And I had mentioned to you and Dr. Keller before about the book that was written called Secret Places of the Lion. And everything in that book was given to him by Valiant Thor. Are we freezing up?
No, but I have that book. We maybe
Okay.
your voice is bubbling a little bit, but we hear you.
Okay. So anyway, Secret Places of the Lion, the information contained in that book, which is part of the secret history of Atan during the Egyptian civilization, was given to him from Valiant Thor from one of the secret archives. So we would bring this to George Hunt Williamson. George would incorporate it into his manuscript and give it back to Val, and Val would take it to one of the archives that it was taken from. Well, I had mentioned to Michelle that there was supposed to be a trilogy, Secret Places of Thunder and Secret Places of Lightning. And he was aware of those titles, and he knew that they were supposed to be completed, but he said they were not part of the estate.
I thought you said Secret Places of the Stairs.
Secret Places of Stairs and Secret Places of Lightning. That's it. They're the two other ones.
Okay.
Secret Places of Stairs and Secret Places of Lightning.
So I'm going to give you folks a little more history on George Hunt Williamson. George Hunt Williamson used to wear a red beret. Now, I can bring up some pictures here, I think, a little bit and make it a little more interesting. But George Hunt Williamson, he was kind of a communist, actually. He was very much into, and I'm going to share a picture here of Dr. Raymond Keller with the red beret wearing moon-based commander that he introduced me to in Virginia. And you mentioned an artist. Can you think of an artist who might have met a Venusian, a musician, Frank?
Yes.
Can you?
This lady definitely would fit that mold.
That's her. This is a moon-based commander, Aura Raines.
Yes.
She was quite beautiful. She answered her questions very nicely. Now, I don't think it was her, but there was another person that met a Venusian, and his name was Prince, and he wrote a song about it. So here's another picture of Commander Raines, what she looked like. As you know, Frank, that they can take on various bodies. This is what we need to understand. They take on spacesuits that can live in our atmosphere. Now, the Venusians don't really need to, because they can live on our Earth.
Yes.
Different. So this is her visiting a woman at Giant Rock Airport. She was a science fiction writer. And so this is how they kind of secretly share some information. So George Hunt Williamson was very psychic. He was very much an archaeological guy. And I'm going to share with you here. You can't see it, but it's red beret. So this is a picture of George Hunt Williamson. So when George Adamski was going to have his contact, it was George Hunt Williamson who actually arranged the meeting. Isn't that correct?
Yeah, and he's the one who took plaster casts of the footprints that were left by Orthon.
Yeah, Raymond revealed to me some cool stuff about that the other day about the footprints. He actually, the original footprints were sent to a guy, and Raymond actually got to see them. Some guy mailed them back and they cracked, but Raymond actually was able to go to the individual who had those footprints, an older gentleman, and actually see them and witness them. So this evidence is very powerful. George Hunt Williamson moved to Peru, and he wrote a great book. It's on my inner circle if you join, it's called Secret of the Andes.
Yes.
And in this book, he talks about the golden disk of the sun that my friend Louis Martens has joined. So George Hunt Williamson, folks, was a very instrumental person in the dissemination of knowledge. He's very esoteric, and he worked with the Inner Earth group of the Great White Brotherhood down in Peru. I'd like for you to add some stuff there. I'm going to stop share screen. I'm going to sneeze and stuff for a second, but please take it away, Frank. Tell us about George Hunt Williamson.
Okay, sure. He actually was in the military, and when he was in the military, he had worked for the Signal Corps, and they were receiving some very, very strange high frequency messages, and they were trying to trace them using the old type of tracking that would be like a circle on top of the roof of a vehicle. They would move around and try to find where the signal was coming from, and they couldn't identify where the signal was coming from. So George Hunt Williamson came up with the idea, maybe the source of this frequency is not horizontal, maybe it's vertical. And they said, what do you mean it could be vertical? And he said, let's take the tracking device off of the roof of the car and put it on a horizontal position and see if it picks up a frequency or picks up the signal. And George was right. He said that the frequency that was emanating, that they were picking up, was coming from about 150 miles above the surface of the Earth. So he started writing a few books. One was called Road in the Sky, Other Tongues, Other Flesh. And he had the experience George Adamski in the desert, and had a chance to meet Diane Thor.
He arranged that meeting in the desert.
Yes. And Judy Beebe, who both of Rob and I know, told me that when she was going to see her chiropractor who lived in California, Judy was born with a very rare form of diabetes, and they wanted to put her head medication. And this Dr. McDonald, who was a chiropractor and also very esoteric, started treating her with an alternative form of therapy. Actually, it was radon therapy, and cured her of it. And Dr. Mack, she would call this doctor, would tell Judy, the visitors are here, the visitors are here. The hairs on her arm would start to lift up, and she would send Judy outside, and Judy would see all this angel hair all over the porch and all over the bushes. And she would go and touch it, and it would dissipate. And I said to Judy, what did it feel like? And she thought a moment, and she said, it felt like liquid. When I touched the angel hair and it would dissipate, she said, for a few moments, it felt just like liquid. So she continued getting these radon treatments from Dr. Mack. And go ahead, Rob.
So Frank has a lot of knowledge and everything. I want to explain a little bit. So angel hair is something that's been reported from benevolent contacts that's on the ground. And it's kind of like a white, clear thing. From what I heard, it was also mana that was left in the behind the scenes activities of the extraterrestrials to guide mankind and free him from slavery of the interlopers on the planet. It's taken place many times in their efforts. And one of them was in Moses's time, and a spaceship led them out, a pillar of cloud by day, a pillar of fire by night, parted the Red Sea and allowed them to escape. This is captured in George Hunt Williams' Other Tongues, Other Flesh, where it's that Moses, the Pharaoh, was actually in league with Moses to let him escape and to take the records that the dark priests were keeping. And so when they found out, they chased him, and the Pharaoh, his half brother, disappeared in a whirlwind. When the generals wanted to go in and chase Moses, he said, no, I'm not going. And they went in the whirlwind and they died, and he was taken up and according to George in his records, the Pharaoh was killed. So angel hair is a food that was provided for the people. So these amazing technologies, and Frank's going to probably be doing a lot of this stuff, and I'll maybe come in now and then. So the angel hair, Judy Beebe told me that also Dr. Frank came to the same chiropractor's house. Is that correct?
I heard that. I don't know any more details than that. but I do know that Dr. Mack was well known for her radon treatments, and it could reverse diabetes. And up until this point in Judy's life, she could still eat sweets and she has no ill effects from it. And Dr. Mack told, go ahead.
I want some radon. Go ahead.
Yeah. So anyway, whenever the craft would fly over Dr. Mack's house, this angel hair would be on the porch and it would be on the shrubberies and on the rose bushes. And she would love going out there, touching it and letting it dissipate. So Dr. Mack told Judy's mom that they were going to have a very special Sunday guest, that George Hunt Williamson was going to be coming with his shortwave radio, and he was going to be broadcasting a message from the star beings through his shortwave radio. And she invited Judy and her mom, and there was about maybe 6 or 7 other people there. So Judy said she got there. She was probably about 17 when this occurred. This was in 1958. And she said she saw George Hunt Williamson. He had a shortwave radio on the dining room table, and the dining room table had been moved and chairs had been set up for people to be able to sit down. When she walked into the dining room area, she said she saw 2 men with suits talking to a man who had his back turned to her. And she said that he spoke in the most incredible voice. And she said when she walked into the room, she heard them talking about Venus. And she said when she walked in, this fella who had his back to her turned around, started walking over to her and said, "And you're from Venus." And she said the person that she saw was Valiant Thor. She said he looked better than the photographs that were taken at Howard Menger's house. She said she couldn't believe how handsome a man was. And she said he stood in front of her and he touched her on her arm and touched her on her waist and said, "You were from Venus." And she said there was a fragrance that emanated from his body that neutralized all the other aromas in the room. And she said he was looking deeply into her eyes. And I said, "Judy, what was it like when you looked into his eyes?" And she said it was like looking into eternity. And she said his voice was so distinctive. She said it was such an incredible voice. And she said during the time he was talking to her, George Hunt Williamson was having some problems tuning into the frequency of the ship to be able to receive a message for the group. So George asked Val to come to the front of the room and help fine tune the shortwave radio, which he did. And then the presentation was made and the message came through from one of our star brothers. And 3 days later, Judy told me that Val came to her and took her on an escorted personal trip to Venus. And she said he was like walking alongside her, telling her to look at the different bushes and flowers and trees and how beautiful everything was so distinct and different from Earth. And she said that the temperature was like 72 degrees. And I said, "Judy, how did the sky look?" And she said, the sky was not like earth-colored sky. She said it looked like mother of pearl. And she said the housing was not attached to the ground. She said they were in spheres that were on pilings. And she said each sphere could house maybe 10 or 15 different families. And she said that the ground was used for farming. She said there was beautiful crops growing all around. And she said she never got over that Val gave her a personal tour of Venus. So and
over a trip to Venus with Valiant Thor, right?
I know, yeah. So she said he would interact with her during the rest of her life. And she said when she would be working or doing something, she would feel his frequency. She's a very specific frequency. And she would say, "Val, you're here." And he'd just say to her, "Just checking in." And he would give her little notes, little forms of communication that were just so potent. I think I've shared some of them with you in the past. It's shared with me. If not, I'll send them to you again. They're just really, really beautiful.
Yeah, she shared some stuff with me.
She's still with us.
Yeah. Go ahead.
I was going to say she's still here with us. She suffered a minor stroke and her daughter Lori is taking care of her. And I spoke to them over Thanksgiving and she sent me a picture of her mom and I'll send it to you. And Judy is still so radiant. She just shines, like a star. And she's done a lot of important work here. And she was also a very close friend of Richard Miller, who wrote the incredible classic Star Wars and classic piece work that is. Rob, that came out when you and I were interacting in California.
That's right. You broke up a little bit there. And that book, I had copy number 383, Star Wars, was right after the real Star Wars movie. And Richard Miller was a contactee, one of the first actually, who was having meetings, and they did have the radio thing set up, and they were all trying to tune into the radios to listen to frequencies. And they were getting in, they were commenting on them. Oh, you guys sure have a fascination with coffee and toast and all this stuff. And then at one point, Richard Miller kind of fell asleep. And while the radio was coming in, he started vocalizing, channeling exactly in unison with the recording. They use a tensor beam, a very thin laser beam. So it's an exact frequency that no one else can hear. And the group he was with, they were all skeptical. They wanted to know. And I don't know if this is related to the George Hunt Williamson one, but they went out and the FAA came in. And because they said, we want to find out where the signal's coming from, the FAA tried to help. We think maybe these guys are pulling our leg. So they went out there, and the FAA came in with 3 trucks where they could triangulate. And they were getting they couldn't figure out where it's from. And one of the antennas on one of the trucks bent over, and it was vertical. And at that point, the locals, Richard Miller and his crew said, okay, thank you, go away, that's good. And they continued their contact with Richard Miller's, I think Soltec was his name. Is that correct?
Yeah, Soltec, yes. That was his primary contact.
His primary contact was Soltec, and I think he's from I want to say Alpha Centauri, but I don't know. But he was getting communications from Kadar, Monka, Corton, and many of these other extraterrestrials that Saleha Winkler, a famous artist, was painting. And both Frank and I met Saleha Winkler. She had beautiful paintings. She must have been in her 70s when I met her, but full of life and energy. And she was painting pictures of Corton, Hatan, Sananda,
Monka,
Ashtar,
yeah, beautiful lady. She was a Disney artist, and she retired 40 years working at the Disney studios, and was drawn to a Buddhist retreat in the high desert area. And Gabe was the one who told me about her, and I said, "Is it possible to visit her?" He said, "Well, let me call and see if she'd be available for a visit."
Who told you about?
And she lived in a modest little cottage, if you remember.
Who told you about her?
Gabe was the one who told me she was living at this Buddhist retreat in Yucca Valley. And I said, could Simon and I go on?
Frank fell out there. So I'm going to tell you I'm going to give him a call. The retreat was called Mental Physics, and that's where Paramahansa Yogananda wrote the Bhagavad Gita. And there he is. He's back on now, I think.
Here.
Okay, you got lost.
Yep.
I was talking about it was called Mental Physics.
So anyway.
Yeah, I went up and saw her painting there. So that Buddhist monastery is now some people have bought it. It's kind of a new age hippie yoga center and stuff now. But Saleha, Gabriel Green, and of course everything's tied in this wonderful little historical bow that has a legacy. Dr. Raymond Keller has written about sharing all of this information, folks. So you can check out my website, thepromiserevealed.com or .net. I'm having a summer conference. I'm hoping Frank can come. While we're right in the middle of this, I'm going to share this book of Omnek. My little friend from Venus, who was on the 5th dimension, and the masters asked her to come to the physical plane to see how a body would react on the physical plane in Earth, and she kept her life secret. And I just visited her in Missouri, and she's agreed to come to my conference along with her friend from Germany. After she wrote her book, From Venus I Came, she went to Germany and became a venerated spiritual teacher there. And she's been in retirement for 15 years. She's come out for 2 of my conferences, and she's coming again this year, folks. So look at my website. You're going to see the first slider banner is picture of some of the images. We're putting up Omnek there. we don't know if Frank's going to be able to come. He's going to let me know here at some point in the future. And we have Dan Winter, Sasha Stone, Raymond Keller, myself, Brad Olson, and let's see, Dan Winter, and Ismael Perez is coming this year. So we have some wonderful new spiritual teachers coming to my event. And also, I'm going to be going on a cruise to Mexico, leaving Los Angeles on the 7th of April and returning on the 21st. And again, that's with Jason Shirka, Dr. Sandra Rose Markle, who I interviewed last night, Brad Olson, Maureen St. Germain, myself, and Graham Hancock, and there's a few other wonderful speakers there. I'm forgetting some. Oh, Vivian Chavez, my friend, the Arcturian contactee. So if you want to go to my website, click on it. And you have to put a name of someone who referred you. Put in my name. I'm offering a healing session or some of my products discount there. So it's going to be a great tour. I'm also going to be appearing in LA at a 5D event, Biomed Expo, in March 25th. And then, of course, my conference, June 22nd through 25th, Omnic, and maybe Frank Chile as well. So I wanted to give that little infomercial there and have you check out my website and these wonderful books of Dr. Keller, including this trilogy, From Venus I Came, talking about life on the fifth dimension and lowering to the fourth dimension, and the sweet little Venusian Omnic. We'll be talking. You can ask any questions you like. It's going to be a Venusian meeting there. So Frank, let's see, we've gone through George Adamski, George Hunt Williamson, Michael Zerger. You've got so many good stories. If you'd like to continue on with the Soleil Winkler or the Gabriel Green, you've got tons of experiences with Gabriel Green.
Well, I wanted to talk a little bit about volume 3 of Bill Tompkins. It's called My Spoken Word.
Yeah,
and
let's bring it on.
There's extraordinary information in here. He also shared with Dr. Bob Wood and Michael Salla the control centers on the solar warden craft that he designed. I am telling you, they look like something out of a science fiction movie or something out of Star Wars. It's absolutely incredible, and he's got more detail inside of the illustrations of the craft. But are we still connected, Rob?
Yeah, we're here.
Okay. So anyway, he talks about things with Bob Wood and Salla. They had a private discussion, and this discussion is included in the book. And they talk about the two aspects of Solar Warden. One is the Solar Warden that is the 7 groups of ships that he designed upstairs. And there's also the Nordic Navy. And the Nordic Navy interacts with our Navy directly, and it's more of a peaceful type of program. And he said that there's 2 sets of rejuvenation mechanisms that they've created. The one for Solar Warden is very similar to the 20 and back, where you take 2 tablets and a series of injections, and it rejuvenates you. And for a period of 20 years, you will not age. And that can be extended, okay? That can be extended beyond a 20-year period. And he said the other set was one that's very closer to what the star visitors use, which is a series of tablets and 3 injections. And the lifespan of that is 1,200 to 2,400 years of age. And he said they developed that when he was at TRW in the early 80s. And he said another thing that they designed, and I'm going to tie this into a presentation that I'm going to be doing, Rob. He said in the 80s, they had the ability of being able to create miniaturization so small that it looks transparent. Well, I don't know if you saw any of the new ads and commercials for the new Samsung and Sony devices. There are cell phones that are transparent. You could see directly through them. It's like holding a pane of plexiglass. And this technology had been developed, according to Bill Tompkins, back in the early 80s. They had developed miniaturization to the point of transparency. And he said that when he was at TRW, he said one of the scientists had to go from Santa Monica up to Oregon. And he was driving above Sacramento on Route 5. And he said he saw a craft during the daytime come down into a wooded area to the left of Route 5, which is the ocean side of Route 5. And he said that he saw this craft come down, and he said he heard this voice say, "We have hot coffee on board. Come and join us." So this scientist from TRW pulls off of Route 5, and he parks his car and he starts walking back into the woods. And he walks back maybe 100 yards or so, and he hears the voice say again, "You're very close to us. Come up here. We got hot coffee for you, and we're waiting for you." So he goes about another 50 yards. He comes to a clearing. He sees this beautiful craft. It's about 100 feet in diameter, but there's no ladder underneath of it, no access to the craft. So he walks over to the edge of the craft, and all of a sudden a ramp comes down with stairs, and he walks up the ramp, and he's greeted by members of the Nordic Navy. And he said there was 100 people on board. He said there were 70 men and 30 women. He said they all looked to be in their early to mid 20s, maybe 30 at the most. And he said they were all resplendent in their Nordic Navy uniforms. He said it was just really, really extraordinary. And he welcomed them on board the craft, and they offered him coffee. And it was the first time he met visitors that looked just like us. He knew that Solar Warden existed, the craft existed, and we're interacting with star beings. But this was the first time he had his own experience meeting members of the Nordic Navy. And again, Solar Warden is basically a battle group, and the Nordic Navy, which interacts with our Navy, is more of a peaceful group of individuals. So not involved in combat. Go ahead, Rob.
I have a couple of questions here. So Nordic Navy, do you know where they're from? I know they look like Nordics, but that's pretty common.
Yes.
What planet are they from? And when we say Navy, that they're kind of conjoined with our Navy. Do they have a Navy on their planet? They might, but since they're not in war, I guess it would just be a Marine expedition.
It's a naval group or a Marine expedition group, but they are from many different star systems, and they all work together like a confederation, Rob. And Bill talks about when they were designing the craft for Solar Warden and designing different craft for the Nordic Navy that the Navy's using upstairs.
Wait, when you say Nordic Navy, I need to be clear. These are visitors from various worlds, nothing to do with Earth people other than their interaction with them.
That's right. Interaction with our Navy. And they're doing humanitarian purposeful things. And they have the ability of our Nordic Navy working with their Nordic Navy has lifespans of 1,200 to 2,400 years of age, which was developed by TRW back in the early 80s. And men above the age of 35 rejuvenate to the age of about 33 to 35 years of age. Women above the age of 25 rejuvenate to between 23 to 25 years of age. And
how about if I'm 65? What would I rejuvenate to?
If you're 65 to 35, between 33 to 35.
Oh, that's perfect.
Yeah. So there's your, you'll be able to maintain your wonderful teeth and your great smile.
Yeah, folks, and you may not know this, but I actually shaved for today for Frank as well. So
yeah, and I shaved too. I did too.
I had a meeting, folks, 2 days ago with Alex Collier in an undisclosed location in Colorado, and he shared with me some amazing information that he just received not too long ago in regards to life extension and plans by the multiple federations to actually they're saying it's probably not going to be soon, he said, but they do have frequency modulators that is going to heal a lot of people, and that at some point in the future, the very near future, they're going to be, well, for us, 10 years, 20 years would be very near future. These technologies available right now, folks. There have been tremendous gains between the multiple galactic federations, not just the Galactic Confederation of Light of the Venusians, which we will join, about 601 worlds and 51 systems, but multiple federations. There's thousands of federations and alliances. Gabriel Green was very fond of the alliance, which was comprised of Syrians, Arcturians, Pleiadians. I'm not sure who else, but Alex Keller has indicated that they have been, I can tell you, in concert with Kim Gogan Ground Command, they have been vaporizing these irreparable humans because most of the galactic interlopers have been removed, or they're hiding in possession of certain human bodies like demons do. But this is out there for you folks. But I'm telling you, we don't understand the multiverse and the nature of the body and the soul and the spacesuit and how to manipulate it. But some of these negative beings have been doing that, and that has been mankind's problem. These beings have been cast into the earth. They've fallen from higher dimensions. And as Commander Rains told me, there's a battle for the souls on earth in the multiple dimensions. And Alon, the security chief, has told me also, do not obsess on the darkness. They have it well under control. And they do. We may not be seeing it, but right now, the governments have no money. They can't create wars. Every time they try to initiate a program of surveillance, this program has been around a long time. COVID was written in a book about, none dare call it conspiracy. The word COVID and vaccination, all that stuff was in there, but it was not understood until now. So these plans are not going to go through, folks. Let Frank's words and the information he's sharing you and the familiarity that he has with our space brothers and visitors assure you that there is progress being made, that these technologies will be released, and mankind is going to be freed. A lot of knowledge and vibrational changes are going to take place on the planet and within our hearts. And we are free now, free will beings, to create our own associations, to create our own sustainable communities, to create our own government. They're going to be falling away. They're going to be running for the hills. It sounds funny, but the police departments, no one's going to have any money unless we together come together to create new systems. So I want to emphasize that positive change of healing, these technologies you hear about. It's sounding pie in the sky. But Frank, why don't you give us some more knowledge and information about the healing things that you're talking about? But I wanted to mention that.
Sure. I came across some information that Israeli doctors working with scientists and physicists have developed a handheld electromagnetic device. It emits a very specific frequency. And I've been told that they use it just for military people. If a soldier gets a bullet wound, a knife wound, or a shrapnel wound, they take the metal out of the body. They hold this device up to the wound. The tissue, the muscle, and the skin heal instantaneously. There's no scarring, no sutures. That's Star Trek medicine. They're going to continue using it for the military, but it's going to be revealed to the public, and the public will be able to utilize it. I was talking to a fella who's a senior engineer at Cisco Systems, and he was going to Vegas for a 2-week seminar on quantum entanglement. He said, we're at the point now where we can create something here with advanced physics and mirrored anywhere that we want instantaneously. He said, cell phones are going to go by the wayside. He said, there's going to be no more cell phone companies. He said, everything's going to be Wi-Fi, and it's going to happen very, very quickly. And he said, those who would try to prevent it from happening, it's going to be like holding back the dawn. They won't be able to do it. He said a friend of his who's an engineer at MIT just got a patent for creating nanobots to go into the body to repair broken bones. He said they're using nanotechnology where they're designing items, actually aligning atoms to assemble super fast. He said they're creating devices smaller than the cell to go in and fight cancer and other diseases. He said we truly are on the cusp of Star Trek medicine. And I shared this with Dr. Keller. I may have shared this with you too, Rob. A principal in a European nano company. He's a partner. There's 3 partners. He heard one of my lectures and he contacted me, and he told me that they're doing things with metamaterials where they're creating new materials And he said, Frank, they have consciousness. If you go into the room where the new material is, and if you're in a negative mood, it'll emanate colors that show that you're in a negative mood, like dark reds and dark browns and things like that. And if you're in a happy mood, you go in, and he said, it'll start emanating like a bluish hue all around the metal.
Mhm.
And he told me that the visitors are already down here working with some of our top researchers. And he said to me, and this is going to really sound strange, he said, the biggest problem that we have as owners of nanotech companies, and he said, I'm talking to owners of other nanotech companies, that we have to tell the researchers that we're hiring they're going to be working alongside star visitors.
Well, that's nice that
He
they're
said,
actually,
that's the biggest challenge that we have.
they're, well,
Yeah,
I mean, if they're looking different, sometimes they could probably just be working and wouldn't even know it. But obviously,
that's
these
right.
happening. Kim Gogan, kind of hinted that she is actually, she had Thanksgiving dinner with some of the extraterrestrials that were helping her manage
Yes,
they're taking over some of the duties in the rebuilding of the new quantum system that's going to deliver money to people and for a living wage. Everyone's going to get a living wage around the world. This idea was first put forward by Thomas Paine, who's a member of the French Revolution and their government there. And this was told to me by Commander Rains that a living wage is worthy of humanity. We have money for bombs and wars. Let's get everyone to be able to live and to be happy and to have health. So this is
yes.
financial. This is what a lot of people call Nasara and Jasara, but it's happening in a different way. But the result is going to be peace, prosperity, and abundance. So I would like to ask you one more question about this
Sure.
growth thing you mentioned with the Nordics. Now, you said it's so small, it's transparent. So you remember Saturday Night Live and they talked about the cell phones? They were really big.
Yes.
Will Ferrell had this little one and he picked it up and goes, hello. Now,
Yep.
when you're saying they're small, the technology is small, but it's a little glass pad, or how does it work?
Well, no, it looks like you're holding a piece of lucite, and it's completely see-through. And they show somebody walking across the beach, and the girl's holding her cell phone, and you see the person walking behind it and out past the other side of it. It's completely transparent. The miniaturization is to the point of creating invisibility. And Bill Tompkins talks about it in this volume 3 that they achieved that in the early 80s.
One of the things that to kind of go along that line is in the Radu Sinamar books, translated by Peter Moon, that document one of the secret places of the lion that George Hunt Williamson wrote about. So all this is connected, folks. Is
It's all connected.
the Transylvania Sunrise series, Transylvania Moonrise, where he meets a Chinese psychic working for the military who dances between controlling, keeping the dark forces at bay. So these ancient tunnels that are in there, the government, U.S. government, kind of twisted the arm of the Romanians, but they used their technology to get into the tunnel, but the Romanians control it. And in one of the things they were going down, they had a very young psychic guy who was very super brainchild. And when they went down this tunnel, this guy was, when they first did it, like in the late 1900, 2000, late 1998, this guy, they were using golf carts with like batteries. They made cells to get to Egypt. Then the next time they went, they had like a energy device that wouldn't even matter. And the guy that was doing it, he had a computer. It was glass and it was down, but he would touch it and it would project a hologram, and he was moving just like you see in the movies. That is a technology. So
Yes.
This goes into, I want to mention another thing with Dr. Frank Strange is it also coordinates with Kim Gogan, in that Dr. Frank Strange has told me that he would have meetings with, Vice Commander Teal or Don or whoever. There would be in a specific location in a house somewhere, he would push a button and out from the closet would come this little device. He'd put it down on the ground. And he said the first time he saw it, Commander Teal popped up so real. He was like this. He was like, he wanted to reach out and touch her. He wasn't sure it was happening. And she said, "Oh, don't touch me." And he put his hand through it. It was a hologram. So this is a way that they actually communicate. It's like in person. So these gifts of technology, folks, are cool. And they're going to be available to all of us in their future. But I think one of the things I always emphasize, and it's the teaching of the Venusians, is that it's going to start with our individual consciousness and our love and our compassion, our empathy for each other, the peace and kindness and patience that we show one another. And the more that we can help and sacrifice and be in service to others and to follow our own dictates, we don't have to listen to the bad guys anymore. So continue on. I just want to come in every now and then and ask a question. So tell me
No, that's fine.
a little bit more
That's
about
fine.
miniature stuff. What did that mean when the guy said he was the miniature stuff? They're just making things like,
They're making it so tiny that light could pass through it. And they achieved that. TRW achieved it. Bill Tompkins worked on that project like 81, 82. And now the telephone or the new cell phones are going to have that technology. I'll send you the photographs of it. I've shared it with people already. They can't believe it. You look actually through the phone. It's transparent.
and do they talk about I'm sure the transmission of the information is going to be something like a Tesla non-harmful, atmospheric Wi-Fi that has no negative connotations.
Yes.
Body. That's going to come. They're preparing that quickly, and they're going to make
Yes.
they want to get rid of this 5G and this old stuff quick, don't they?
Yep. I saw that AT&T has a new type of cell phone and laptop where you put the device down and a holographic projection appears and you could touch it and move it around like you're actually touching a screen. And the hologram acts as the medium for you to be able to access information and pull up pictures, pull up technology, pull up literature. It's absolutely amazing.
Is it going to be
Things are
into your thoughts and stuff like that, or
no, you'll be able to pull up what would normally be on a screen of a laptop or a screen of a cell phone, but it'll be holographic form and you can move it around and manipulate it. They said that state of the art is changing every 30 to 45 days. They said it's advancing so quickly. They don't really know where we'll be in 5 years. We know where we'll be, but it's really advancing very, very quickly. And I was talking to one engineer from Google, and he said, Frank, Google's hiring 165,000 engineers a year worldwide. He said the number of patents that they're pending for new products is close to 4 million.
yeah, this stuff, and it's got to go to humanity in a different way. I mean, this whole thing, the way they kept this. I mean, Frank, or you and I would, I get a little more hot under the collar, but when you realize, folks, that they've had free energy, flying in spaceships, and we're driving around in cars.
Yes.
People in charge have nothing for us. They're elites who think they own the world. They've been brought up to believe that they are the chosen ones. And if they can cause enough wars and suffering, they'll get more money and power. That game is over, folks.
Yeah.
The galactics are here.
It's all a distraction. It's all distraction, Rob.
Yeah. So
the contactees tell me, keep an eye on moving forward at all times. Be aware of what's happening around you, but don't let anything block your movement forward. Always move forward.
who are some other contactees you can share?
Well, one of them was one that Paula introduced me to about 3 months ago. She had an experience at the age of 18. She grew up in a family that was full of turmoil. And she wrote a book about her experiences called Hidden Lies and Hidden Truth and Dark Lies. And
How old is she now?
she's probably maybe 45 years of age, and she was at Paula's current conference. I'm going to supply her name to you so that you could contact her. She'd be wonderful to interview. She had several experiences when she was 17, and actually her and her mom saw a ship land outside their house. And there's residue of the ship that she has. The rings, they're very light or like air, and they're non-magnetic. They've never rusted. And she gave some of them to the University of Minnesota to try to identify what they were. They couldn't identify what they were. But she actually has artifacts that was left by a craft. And her mom has passed on now, but her name is Julie. And she's a really, really wonderful lady. And she gives a great, great interview about her experiences
Have you met her?
meeting the visitors. Only on phone and through the internet. But Paula had her at her conference out at Laughlin, Nevada. And I'll give you her contact information, and you might want to reach out to her. She's a fine lady. She really is.
Okay, I'd love to. Thank you so much.
Yeah.
And
And she actually has artifacts from the craft, which is incredible. And she said it was a lime green
Inside the
craft. It was
craft?
beautiful. It was scar shaped.
inside the craft?
It was like, no, she said there were these emanations that came out of the craft that dropped into the snow, and they made it like rings, and they were like a form of metal. And she has some of them, and they were left like gifts. And she's one of the few contactees I've ever met that actually has some of the material that was left by the craft.
And what else does she share in the terms of the relationship of what the information was?
Well, that they're here, they're interacting down here. She feels that she's going to have future interactions with these beings. And she used to be thrown out of the house. Her father was an alcoholic, and he had he really did not want her to be part of his house. And he would set her outside without a jacket on, without any shoes or socks, and she would sit under the lamppost in front of her house, crying. And she'd call out to the universe asking for help. Can I please have help? Will somebody please help me? And that's when her series of encounters started. It's really a great story.
Well, he was just when people, alcohol is actually it's a disease. It really is. People who are
It is.
alcoholics should not have children or be married. They should just, the only way out of it is abstention. So it's
Yes.
something that we have to remove from our genetic our consciousness here. Willingly, people have to choose when certain things are a problem with their body, unless it can be repaired some way. I feel like
Yes.
that guy was just possessed. It wasn't him. It was the dark force. The dark force that
Well, she rose above it. Thank God she didn't succumb to his negativity whatsoever. And she has her own family now, and they're very open and receptive to the mother's experience. And she said she felt that she needed to write it. She felt she needed to write this book, Dark Truth and Hidden Lies.
Where does she reside?
She lives out in the Midwest, in I believe it's Minnesota.
Okay.
In a very rural area, and there's a lot of UFO activity out there as well. But when she reached out the first time asking for help, a visitor came into her room, and her brother freaked out seeing this little man come into the room and threw the covers over his head. And she interacted with him mentally and held eye contact with this small visitor. And she's got a drawing of him. It's really quite interesting. I'll send you the links and some of the information.
Can you describe what he looks like?
He looked like he was about 3 feet tall. He had small ears, a nose, a mouth, and eyes, and he looked like a miniature man, but he was emanating a very brilliant light, but it didn't hurt her eyes. It's like when the craft landed and left this residue behind it, her and her mom saw. It was like a lime green cigar-shaped craft, but she said the light was so brilliant, lime green. And she said that it filled her bedroom in her house with all this beautiful light. And she said, but you could look at it. She said, but it was brilliantly radiant, but it didn't hurt your eyes at all. Didn't strain your eyes looking at it.
Yeah.
And she's got drawings of it. And of course, the residue. And I had her on Jeff Rentz's program. She gives a wonderful interview. She really does.
And
Sad, but there's a lot of meaning in what she's experienced. You know, a lot of people haven't had pristine lives. And yet, when they've called for help, the stars have responded.
it's called Hidden Lies and Dark.
Dark Truth and Hidden Lies.
Okay.
Dark Truth and Hidden Lies. I'll send you the links to it and her contact information.
Okay.
Her name is Julie. She's a wonderful lady.
Okay. I know you've got more contactees up your sleeve there.
They're always coming to light. You know that. They're always coming to light. We're going to do this on a semi-regular basis, correct?
Oh, yeah, we're gonna do this regularly if we can.
Okay.
Okay with you. I think I just found it here. I'm gonna check it out here, folks. So we got,
Can you bring it up so that people could see it on the screen?
yeah, that's the idea. Here we go. Dark
Okay.
Lies, Dark Secrets, Hidden Lies, the Wilderney UFO case. I guess Paula did the Julie Olson. Kindle is 0. I guess I can buy it now and hear it in a voice. That's awesome. And here's the other image. So yeah, this sounds like
You see her standing under the street light? See that on the cover? That was her idea.
Oh, there
for
she
the
is
cover.
sitting here. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is amazing. I mean, folks, there's the angels do attend us, and for those who are aware and awakened and looking for truth, you knock upon the door and they're answered.
Yes.
The questions are answered. So there's so many people coming forward now with so many amazing experiences and contacts of many different kinds that as the control network goes down, we're going to see a flood of truth and awakening that we've never seen before. It's going to transform the earth.
It sure is. It sure is. We live in exciting times. Never think that there's not a higher purpose working through all this. Sometimes Simon and I, when we would visit Sister Thedra, we'd say, don't they see that they're using the wrong approach here? And Sister Thedra gave me one of those looks. And she said, Frank, never doubt that the divine plan is not in the most capable hands you could ever imagine. She said, never doubt that. And she gave me that look like it was a slap.
Yeah. Yeah. Frank, don't you dare doubt have any lack of faith, right?
Yes, never. She said, it's the most capable hands you could ever imagine. And she said, they know all the different commutations of how things could play out. And she said, they're working it to the extent of this cosmic plan is going to be perfect. She never had any doubt, never.
Wow. I have I think I'm going to share a little recording here from the Queen of Venus. Would you like to hear a message from Lady Orda, George Adamski's first contact?
Sure.
Okay. Let's see. I'm not sure which one this is. We'll just listen to it. And
my dear friends of Venus, this is the Queen, Order of Aberhar, welcoming all to this very important Hierarchy of Light conference at beautiful Mount Shasta in Northern California on this 26th day of August 2021.
Should have been there.
Our special thanks are extended to Robert Potter of The Promise Revealed for organizing this conference. Aberhar is the true name for the planet you refer to as Venus, which is truly a paradise world. Aberhar occupies space and time in both the third and fourth dimensions, and in our Norcan language signifies planet of the bees, because various species of sentient bees are the indigenous life forms there. We, the humanoids inhabiting Aberhar, originally hail from a planet called Norca in the solar system of the star you know as Tau Ceti. You of Earth also share some connections with Norca, as well as many other planets in our spiral arm of the Milky Way galaxy, planets that you will be hearing more about throughout the proceedings of this conference. The Galactic Confederation of Light consists of 601 planets from 51 solar systems in our Milky Way galaxy. May the infinite creator speed the way when you, the inhabitants of the earth, will be ready for your planet to take its place in our galactic confederation of light, the day when we formally receive our designated ambassadors into our courts on high. In our solar system, there are two courts: my royal administrative courts on Venus in our capital city of Azure, and a judicial council on a moon of Saturn. In the 4 days of this conference, I can assure you that many of our contingent are walking among you, clandestinely, of course. Some of you may sense our presence telepathically. We highly esteem and value each and every one of you. You are the special ones, enlightened to the realization that we are real and that you have a definite connection with us on many, many levels. We look forward to interacting with you throughout the conference. There has been an augmentation of the Venus frequencies of love reaching our planet, and at this time, our transmitters have been particularly focused on this area of Northern California. These are transformative frequencies, to be sure, facilitating and increasing those powers latent within you that will, with the exercise of them, permit you to accomplish wonderful deeds on a multidimensional level. You are about to surprise yourself, beginning to realize all that you are truly capable of. Some of those on your planet in New Age and UFO circles have expressed disappointment that we of Abahar have not been as political as they would like to see us be. As our commander, Aura Reigns of the Moonbase Clarion has said, the fate of your world is in your own hands. The political systems that you create to manage your progress or lack thereof on the earth should be of your own making. This is in keeping with the sovereignty due you as a sentient species. We have, however, on occasion, worked behind the scenes to promote those conditions on Earth which work to maintain the peace and security within the Earth-Moon system as well as our solar system overall. To all participants in this conference, seekers of enlightenment, guest speakers, organizers, vendors, our heartfelt love is extended to you all. And to all of those unable to attend for various reasons, we of Abahar want you to know that you too shall be encompassed about by the love and light which has been extended to you through our registered discs and ventilers conducting an area reconnaissance in your area, searching for those of the pure heart emanating with the divine spark of the infinite creator. This is the Queen Order of Abahar, wishing you all a most safe and joyous conference 26 through 29 of August 2021. Celestial blessings always. Thank you for making this important Venus connection. I'm looking forward to seeing you on the top side.
So
Lovely.
that's great. I mean, all this is due to the man you introduced me to, Dr. Raymond Keller, who arranged my physical meeting after asking the Queen. He asked Alon, he says, can we get this guy a spaceship encounter? And Alon goes, no way. And he says, ask the Queen. The Queen is his friend. And I'm going to share, I may as well share a picture with you folks of the Queen for those of you who haven't or kind of new to my information. This is the Queen of Abahar, or the Planet of the Bees, as they call it. Her name is Lady Orda. So she was the first contact for George Adamski way back in the day. So
Yes.
There you see her.
Yes.
Quite beautiful. And she was born in 1585 and had a long lifespan. I've told that story many times, but this is her. And if you look at the picture, I think I can probably pull it up of George Adamski, which is a very similar picture of her. Here's a picture of her with Raymond Keller. That other picture that I just showed is documented in a Brazilian magazine as being in 1954. Raymond Keller took this picture with her in Vista, California, and 1972 when he met her at Gabriel Green's house. Of course,
It sure looks like her. It sure looks like her.
Oh, it's her. And this is another picture of her right here. This is a picture of her in at George Adamski's meeting here. It's a little not so focused, but you can see she's holding a little ball.
Yes.
The nimbus. Now you notice the hair is very much like the picture of George Adamski. So I got that picture too. I'm going to show you that one. So this is going to put some pieces together for people. There's some researchers and people that don't believe I'm telling the truth. And I got Raymond Keller, and myself and Frank and many others. This is George Adamski. The day that I met here, this is Lady Orta. There was a cigar-shaped ship in the sky. There was several ventlas in the air, and there was one on the ground, and there was a gentleman inside the craft and another one outside security. But she told this gentleman here, George Adamski, folks, who lived in Laguna Beach as well, she said, George, tell them I'm a man because we don't think your people will accept a woman in a position of responsibility. So that's what he did. And in this famous 1954 image, Frank, we find here on the left-hand side a Martian with glasses named Ramu, or Firkan, and a Venusian on the right named Ramu. So Firkan and Ramu with Lady Orta, and you probably can relate to this. So they came in to the meeting late. So people kind of noticed him because Firkan, the Martian, was kind of tall. I kind of looked at him, and some people were thinking she looks like the picture of George Adamski. So they sat down, and she was feeling the vibes of people like this talking. And towards the end, they somehow they wanted to ask her a question, and people turned around and she said she could read their minds. And they said, "Well, where are you guys from?" And she goes, "Oh, we're roommates from Hermosa Beach." And the people's minds kind of freaked out because in the 54, you don't have roommates. She could read people's minds. They're kind of sexual cult. And when they left, the Brazilian photographer went out and took those pictures. And then in Dr. Raymond Keller's book, Cosmic Rays Excellent Adventure, he reveals that the people started following them. So the queen, in that little ball that she has, is a security device. It's called a nimbus. And that nimbus was activated as they went into a little eucalyptus forest below Mount Palomar at wherever he was giving his talk there. And a swarm of bees came out and drove the people back.
How about that? Wow. Wow.
So this is the interaction that's going on, folks. Thank you, Frank Chile, for introducing me to Raymond Keller, who has answered 101 million questions. And we're going to be doing some more interviews with him soon. That's all I'm going to be.
He's a gem of an individual. He's a gem of a fellow. He really is.
Oh my God. He's so kind. He never gets upset. He's so gentle.
No, never at all. Never. And I want to tell you another synchronicity. You mentioned when you introduced me about Zret, and Zret came from Norca in Tauceti, and he was a contactee, or he contacted Albert Coe, which was the first contactee I ever met. And his contact with Zret occurred in 1920. So he was a great granddaddy of contactees. And I met him in the late 60s and got a chance to bring him on to radio shows, and had newspaper people talk to him. And he lived in Philadelphia, but he originally had his experience in upstate New York with Zret and he was 15 years of age, and Zret appeared to be maybe in his early 20s. But Zret was from Norca and taught in the Tauceti constellation.
His civilization was originally, or he came
originally. Zret was originally from Norca.
This confirmed. Well, that was 18 million years, or 25 million years ago, according to Raymond. They came. So it's been a long time. I guess you could say my roots were in Tauceti, but I mean, my goodness, the Venusians have been here for so long and have. I guess they just keep a little contingent down here to keep in touch with Frank. So,
they're contacting many people. You know that.
I know.
Dr. Bill Tompkins told me that he was one of 500 that were selected by extraterrestrials to do specific work with the star visitors, and he had always hoped that he was the first one to come out. he always hoped that others would come forward and talk about their own experiences with the Nordics. And he said he had hoped that his presentations and discussions on Jeff Rense would cause them to want to come forward and also share their own experiences as Bill had.
Did any of them come forward to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge, but his mother, he would tell me stories about his mother, how she looked unlike any of the other sisters that she had. And he said, my mom always loved to sing and to dance and twirl around. And I would say to him, Bill, I think your mom was not from here. And
Probably.
he chuckled a little bit. And he said, what are you saying, Frank? And I said, Bill, I think your mom was a Nordic. And he said, yeah, she was.
Wow. Yeah, he told me some stuff. I got to talk to him for a couple 2-hour sessions, and Michael Salla is about a lot more detail oriented in research and everything. So
Yes.
continue with him, and I'm not as good technologically in producing information, but he was very amazing. Why don't you share a little more information? We've got about let's see, about 18 minutes left. We don't have to do the full 2 hours, but I'd love for you to share. Folks, we're going to have so much. Frank's got so many stories. I mean, he can just go into, we'll get into Sister Thedra next time with your trip to Manly.
Yeah, of course, sure.
But
yeah, and also Daniel Boone, who we used to visit out in Landers, and George Van Tassel's Integratron. I mean, it's all linked together.
When you were there and George Van Tassel had passed, we'll tell that story. Folks, there's amazing stories of eternal life and wonderful, the reality that we're not alone. Why don't you share a little bit more from Selected by Extraterrestrials Part 3 that
Sure.
Bob, is that just recently?
Just recently came out, and I'm trying to work on getting Bob Wood to come forward onto Jeff.
Was that by Michael Salla or Bob Wood?
Bob Wood and Michael Salla did some, there's some affiliation and some assistance there. But they talk about the packets that Bill designed working with the German operatives during World War II. And he said that they had compiled like 1,200 of these packets that were placed all around the country in different universities and different companies to back engineer this material. And I remember him saying to me, we were talking about my background and his background. And I said, I used to go to Warminster, Pennsylvania for metaphysical meetings. And he said, Frank, I was delivering packets to Warminster, Pennsylvania back in the early 40s. And he said, there's a naval facility there, a naval defense facility that's underground. And he said,
right after the World War,
during World War II, he was taking packets of literature for back engineering. Okay. And it's a naval facility in a landlocked state in Pennsylvania. Go ahead.
Was this Bill Tompkins or
Bill Tompkins told me. Bill Tompkins told me this. Okay. So he said, Frank, they have a huge underground facility there. I said, Bill, that area is housing now, but it used to be nothing but farms. He said, that's all it was when I would land there. He said, it was nothing but farms. But he said, there's a very incredible base that's there. And to this day, it's still there. And he took out 20 packets there. It's in this book of information that was to be back engineered. Just really phenomenal stuff. He told me about a packet that he had to bring to San Jacinto, that there's a naval base inside of that mountain. And he said, I said, Bill, how would you access it? He said he would take the ski lift up to the top where the skiers would go. And he said, when you go to the platform where the ski lift is, he said he was told to go around the back of the facility, and there's a door. And he had a key to this door. And he said inside that door was an elevator inside of the mountain. And he said the naval facility inside that mountain, he had to deliver packets to. But he said there's a lot of activity, off-planet activity occurring inside that mountain.
I'm going to go knock on that door next time I'm out of Palm Springs.
And Idlewild, there's a lot of UFO activity around that area, Idlewild, California.
Yeah, it's an amazing, it's a kind of a anomaly mountain kind of perked up there over, it's all covered in snow. It's quite beautiful when the green grass of the golf courses there in Palm Springs is.
Yes. Is that ski lift still open? Is it still open there, Rob, that ski lift to the top of
It's
San
a
Jacinto?
very high-tech vertical one. You kind of wonder, it's not a ski lift, it's just and you kind of wondered why would they put that up there just for hikers? But that explains.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm gonna come knocking. Who security? Let me in.
Yes. He said a lot of people would never realize that, but he said there's a secret naval facility inside of San Jacinto. It's amazing stuff that he would share.
I find it interesting. You know, they put this out, they compartmentalize it. Folks, if only they were honest and transparent and took the hand of Valiant Thor and the Venusians when it was offered, we'd have
Yeah.
a much better paradise. But they chose to work with the dark force and the greed and control, the corruption, the lies. What else is in that book? There's got to be more.
Oh, there's a tremendous amount. We could do one show just on this book alone, but you had mentioned before about your upcoming conference. And the reason I haven't been able to commit to it yet is I mentioned to you and Dr. Keller that we've been working with the Historical Society of Highbridge, New Jersey, and some of the town council members. And it looks like we're going to do a Howard Menger event either May or June of this next year. And it's going to be the first ever. And there's apparently 2 women there that knew Howard Menger, and they had their own experiences. We're going to ask them if they'll come forward and share information with us. But the energy is still there. The Howard Menger house, where the backyard meeting was with Val Thor, is still there. Nobody lives in the house. It's got new siding on it. It's in beautiful condition. And I went there with Paula Harris and George Filer and 2 other people that came out with Paula, one from California and one from Colorado. And you could still feel that energy from when Val was there. Paula felt it and I felt it. And this other fellow who was with us, David. I'm telling you, that energy is still there, Rob. It's really potent.
I met Howard. Did you ever meet Howard?
I never met him.
I met him. He was a tall glass of water. Him and Connie were something else. She was cute as a button, and they were truly madly in love with each other. I took him to Egypt with Wendell Stevens.
Get out, really? Wow.
Wendell Stevens on this side of the aisle, and Howard Menger and I and Connie. I would go and I would sit in the during the flight. I talk to them for an hour, and then to lunch I go back to Wendell, and then I go back to Connie and Howard. And he was very honest and upfront. He told me about the moon and
yes. His wife Connie was very articulate, Rob. She was quite a good communicator.
Very heartfelt woman. And
did I send you the links to that German documentary that we came across that has interviews with Howard and with Connie? I'll send it to you again. I sent them to Ray, and he was able to see them.
I know you're sending it to rob@thepromiserevealed.com. No longer good. Reply to that one. That would be great. So
okay.
Yeah.
Incredible information. And there's footage, some footage I'd never seen before. Incredible footage.
Wow. Well, folks, this is Frank Chile here. We're going to sign off here in just a minute. I'm going to exit. I got the website up, so I'm going to share that for a hot minute here.
Can I also give them my email address in case anybody wants to contact me?
Yeah, please contact. Go ahead. Say it a couple times, Frank, why I'm pulling this up.
Sure. It's my name, Frank Chile, CHILLE @hotmail.com. Again, it's all lowercase, and there's no separation between my first and last name. It's just Frank Chile, CHILLE @hotmail.com. And that's one of the rare color photographs of the meeting behind Howard's home. In that area, you could still feel the energy where that meeting was and when Val was there and Dom and Jill.
Yeah, Frank Chile Dr. Frank Stranges gave this to me. He also gave me the original slides from Augie Roberts as well. This is Don Thor, the first person I met, the Venusian that I cognizant of.
Can you make it larger, Rob? Can you make it larger?
Here, yeah, I could probably make it larger. So this is Don, and I met him. Gabriel Green told me about the Venusians like the 50s, and in comes Don in a baby blue Chevy with a bunch of blonde girls like Jill. That was in 1984, around the time I was hanging out with them. I met Valiant Thor in 2003 at a rainbow gathering with another man and a woman. Gabe was accompanied by 3 women sitting on the back and another gentleman in the front. And the other gentleman I've seen quite a few times here around Oregon and Shasta, actually. And then I met her at Dr. Frank Sinner's Circle meeting in 2007, right before he passed away. So that was an amazing experience there with those guys. So I'm going to pull up my website, folks, for you here, in case you just want to take a peek here. And there you see the, can you see the, I'm not showing it yet. Here you go. So we're going to go back to the summer conference here real quick. So if you get to my site, folks, the promiserevealed.net, this you can click this link here. Brad Olson, Dan Winter, Scott Warner, Faruko, myself, Dr. Keller, Sasha Stone, Ismail Perez, Vivian Chavez, Andrew Lloyd, or I'm sorry, Alfred Lambermont Weber, Dr. Remo will be appearing remotely, and it's going to be an amazing conference. So you can check that out. Click that link or click this one here. That's the dates. New Spiritual Paradigm, Angels and ETs in the Multidimensional Omniverse. Raymond and I came up with that. This, of course, is the one in down to South America, or to Mexico, the Mexican Riviera, on a beautiful cruise. So, of course, these are the beautiful necklaces. Click on that. You can read all my stuff. So I don't mean to proselytize too much on my products, but I do need to make a living. I am trying to work on my book now. So I got so much information. The cause is going to help me do it. Frank, you got to write a book. What's the story with?
I'm also thinking of doing some audiobooks. There's a lot of information to share, Rob. You know that.
There's so much information, Frank. Your stories, ladies and gentlemen, we have just like scratched. We barely got through the index of it, or whatever it is in the book. We're on page 3. It's a 900 book. Yes.
What's your book going to be called, Rob? What's your book's title?
I don't know. I'm going to have probably The Promise Revealed overall. I'll have chapters of first I don't know. I could just do a book on the Venusian messages. I've got probably 80 or 100 pages of written messages and more recorded messages with transcripts. It reveals a lot of information, and people get triggered by it because they talk about Christ and the Creator. But most of these are very spiritual, right?
Of course. You know, when Dr. Strange has met with Valiant Thor at the Pentagon, and Dr. Strange has asked him, do you folks have a Bible? And do you remember what Valiant Thor's answer was? He said, no.
We walk with
he said, yeah, we never stop walking with the Lord. That's beautiful.
Actually, Christ actually appointed Valiant Thor in charge of the Earth mission, and gave him a cloak, or like a cloak with a hoodie.
Yes.
And then he also appointed the good thief, Lord Dismas, the one in Mount Shasta people know of as the Ascended Master of Moria, is the regent of Venus. And I have a picture of him here. Anyway, so this is a picture of El Moria. And after this, we're going to let you go, folks. It's been a long show. There's El Moria over there in the corner saying hi. I don't know if you can see that. Oh, I guess not. You were looking at the back.
No, it's tough. It's tough to see.
All right. So I'm going to end this meeting. I'll hang on just a second after it, Frank, and
Sure.
Divine Miss L, I'll call you a little later. Or you can hang on here.
Okay.
See you folks next week. Keep it real and keep your eyes on the prize, and be ready to step forward. Have no more fear. They have no more power. They can put propaganda out there, and they want you to believe everything they're telling you, but nothing's going to come true. Nothing but good news. Everyone's going to get their teeth fixed. All at once. All right. God bless you.
God bless you.
Bye, folks.